This week on Marketplace Middle East, architectural identity, how countries in the region are building brands with bricks. Plus,
societies just don't change that quickly, and if you do force them to change quickly, you're going to run into another set of problems.
facing the challenges of rapid development, His Highness the Aga Khan on economic growth in the Middle East. The real estate sector around the world took a downturn during the financial crisis. The Middle East was no exception. For Dubai, the building boom of the 1990s came to a virtual halt, but not before it had molded its skyline to project a modern face and help define its role in the region. Now neighboring Abu Dhabi and Doha are doing the same. Leonie Lakhani looks at how the Gulf is building up a new identity.
Just 30 years ago, much of the Gulf region, shrouded in sand, embodied an ancient nomadic existence. Then in the 1980s and 90s, a new landscape seemed to emerge from the desert dunes, and with it, the modern image these cities wish to project.
I think it's a great moment where everybody wants to represent their advancement in a way in architecture, and everybody went through it in the West. You know, Germany went through it post-war. Every city had to have a stadium, every city had to have a concert hall, and I think the same would say with the Middle East.
Dubai's building boom culminated in creating the largest and most unique structures, using architecture to define its identity and brand itself. As Dubai was building up, the sky was the limit, and when they embarked on this, the Burj Khalifa, the world's tallest tower, this was a perfect landmark to elevate Dubai's image abroad. The Burj Khalifa cost $1.5 billion and took 6 years to build.
Whenever you build the tallest building in the world, there's always going to be an expression of technology that took you there, that allowed you to achieve a monumental project like that. The Burj Khalifa obviously is a great landmark for Dubai, but it was making a statement.
Dubai wants to capture the world imagination, to make buildings that are known and visible as one way to initiate this kind of public relations image, and then the economy and the expatriates and the tourists and the businesses will come after that.
To bring in the visitors, neighboring Gulf cities are molding their skylines by incorporating the arts in their master plans.
All the major global cities in the world, whether it's New York or London or Paris or Tokyo, indeed, all of them have culture at their heart. And it's important to see how much of a contribution to make to the economies of these cities and the countries.
Abu Dhabi's city blueprint includes extensions of the Louvre and Guggenheim museums.
When you have Western culture, realize that the Muslim cultures are well educated and intellectually curious. There's a different picture, different point of view. And so I've tried to design a building that allows that.
When Qatar wanted to put its stamp on the world of art and culture, it brought out renowned architect Imam to build this landmark Museum of Islamic Arts. Like many of the structures in construction, this one was inspired by the region's surroundings. Critics have accused the cash-rich Gulf countries of trying to import culture by bringing in Western museums and Western architects. But that's something those commissioned on these projects are conscious of.
These projects are rooted in the culture of the place, the climate of the place, and the values of the place.
I think it's important for buildings in this region and other regions around the world to have roots. We cannot have a parachuted building like this.
Jean Nouvel's design for the Abu Dhabi Louvre is a modern-day reflection of the domes of a mosque. But the new generation of cultural cities are up against the historic capitals of the Middle East.
Competition is coming up from Beirut and Cairo and Istanbul, indeed, and others. And I think the market can take only so many cultural hubs. Visitor numbers is what determines the success of cultural institutions.
Build it and they will come, as the old saying goes. For these Gulf cities, consistently bringing in the visitors to showcase their achievements will be the next challenge. Leonie Lakhani for Marketplace Middle East, Dubai.
While many countries in the region are using architecture to project their identity, one organization is using it to promote economic development. The Aga Khan Development Network recently presented 5 projects with the Aga Khan Award for Architecture. Now in its 33rd year, the award is dedicated to improving the living conditions and opportunities for the needy. I sat down with the chairman and founder of the foundation and spiritual leader of the Muslim Ismaili community, His Highness the Aga Khan. I asked him about his organization's key priorities.
The general goal of the Aga Khan Development Network as a system of agencies is to assist in the construction of civil society. We are, over the past 50 years, have come to the conclusion that the strength and quality of civil society is the greatest guarantor of processes of positive change.
It's incredible because you look at the highest per capita income. So if one takes Doha, the highest per capita income in the world, or nearly such, at $90,000, and then Yemen at around $1,200, it's not realistic to keep a gap that wide and not expect trouble at the bottom end.
Well, I think the issue is not only the differences in quality of life. There are many other criteria, and one of the ones that we are most exposed to as a network of institutions is what is healthy speed of change, because you can move too fast. It's not only addressing a form of paralysis of development and extricating yourself from that frozen situation. It's also that societies just don't change that quickly, and if you do force them to change quickly, you're going to run into another set of problems.
This change that's being introduced in many parts of the world, in the Islamic world, is happening at a very fast pace, but we also have the fastest birth rates in the world. So in a sense, these governments need to manage this change at a very accelerated pace as a result of the very fast birth rates.
Well, population issues are serious issues in much of the Islamic world, but not only in the Islamic world. But I think what we've tended to see as economies have modernized, birth rates drop in any event. That's practically a global process.
Do you think in the broader Middle East region that education was not a priority? You see countries like Saudi Arabia or even Qatar spending a quarter to a third of their budgets now to play catch-up. Were the last 2 decades lost decades in terms of human capital development?
I don't think one can generalize on the Islamic world. If you look at countries like Malaysia or Indonesia, they have invested heavily in education and they're seeing the return on that investment. Other countries didn't move that quickly for various reasons. They didn't have institutional capacities. And so they're now in a more of a catch-up mode. I don't think it's too late.
If you look at it, we have a Muslim market, if you will, of nearly 1.5 billion consumers, but they often don't trade amongst themselves. And you say that the more progressive economies like Malaysia now looking to the Gulf or even looking to China from the Middle East.
Right.
This is a marked change over even 5 to 10 years ago, would you say?
It is indeed.
Can you get accelerated trade to actually deal with poverty, though?
I would tend to differentiate between the countries which are essentially driven by rural or agricultural economies and economies which are driven by other resources.
And in fact, so rural development has to be a priority.
Has to be a priority. Environments. After all, 70% of the Muslim population of the world probably lives from the land and on the land.
Once again, the Aga Khan talking to me there in Doha. Up next, back at the bargaining table, world powers agreed to more talks with Iran as questions remain over the country's nuclear ambitions.